Chapter 8 The Evidence of Colonel Arbuthnot. Poirot roused himself with a slight start. His eyes twinkled a little as they met the eager ones of Van Bach. "Ah, my dear old friend," he said, "you see, I have become what they call the snob. The first class, I feel, it should be attended to before the second class. Next, I think we will interview the good-looking Colonel Arbuthnot." Finding the colonel's French to be of a severely limited description, Poirot conducted his interrogatory in English. Arbuthnot's name, age, home address, and exact military standing were all ascertained. Poirot proceeded. "It is that you come home from India on what is called a leave. What we can call an permission?" Colonel Arbuthnot, uninterested in what a pack of foreigners called anything, replied with true British brevity, "Yes." "But you do not come home on the P&O boat?" "No." "Why not?" "I chose to come by the overland route for reasons of my own, and that," his manner seems to say, "is one for you interfering little jackanapes." "You came straight through from India?" The colonel replied dryly. "I stopped for one night to see of the Chalades, and for 3 days in Baghdad with the AOC, who happens to be an old friend of mine." "You stopped 3 days in Baghdad. I understand that the young English lady, Miss Debenham, also comes from Baghdad. Perhaps you met her there?" "No, I do not. I first met Miss Debenham when she and I shared the railroad convoy car from Kirkuk to Neseben." Poirot leaned forward. He became persuasive and a little more foreign than he need have been. "Monsieur, I am about to appeal to you. You and Miss Debenham are the only two English people on the train. It is necessary that I should ask you each your opinion of the other." "Highly irregular," said Colonel Arbuthnot coldly. "Not so. You see, this crime, it was most probably committed by a woman. The man was stabbed no fewer than 12 times. Even the chef de train said at once, 'It is a woman.' Well then, what is my first task? To give all the women traveling on the Istanbul Calais coach what Americans call the once over. But to judge an English woman is difficult. They are very reserved, the English, so I appeal to you, monsieur, in the interest of justice. What sort of person is this Miss Debenham? What do you know about her?" "Miss Debenham," said the colonel with some warmth, "is a lady." "Ah," said Poirot, with every appearance of being much gratified. "So you do not think that she is likely to be implicated in this crime?" "The idea is absurd," said Arbuthnot. "The man was a perfect stranger. She had never seen him before." "Did she tell you so?" "She did. She commented at once upon his somewhat unpleasant appearance. If a woman is concerned, as you seem to think, to my mind without any evidence, but on a mere assumption, I can assure you that Miss Debenham could not possibly be implicated." "You feel warmly in the matter," said Poirot with a smile. Colonel Arbuthnot gave him a cold stare. "I really don't know what you mean," he said. The stare seemed to abash Poirot. He dropped his eyes and began fiddling with the papers in front of him. "All this is by the way," he said. "Let us be practical and come to the facts. This crime, we have reason to believe, took place at 1:15 last night. It is part of necessary routine to ask everyone on the train what he or she does at that time." "Quite so. At 1:15, to the best of my belief, I was talking to the young American fellow, secretary to the dead man." "Ah, were you in his compartment, or was he in yours?" "I was in his." "That is a young man of the name of McQueen?" "Yes." "He was a friend or acquaintance of yours?" "No, I never saw him before this journey. We fell into casual conversation yesterday, and both became interested. I don't, as a rule, like Americans, have any use for them." Poirot smiled, remembering McQueen's strictures in Britishers. "But I like this young fellow. He got hold of some tomfool, idiotic ideas about the situation in India. That's the worst of Americans. They're so sentimental and idealistic. Well, he was interested in what I have to tell him. I've had nearly 30 years' experience of the country, and I was interested in what he had to tell me about the working of prohibition in America. Then we got down to the world politics in general. I was quite surprised to look at my watch and find it was 1:45. "That is the time you broke up this conversation?" "Yes." "What'd you do then?" "I walked along to my own compartment and turned in." "Your bed was made up ready?" "Yes." "That is the compartment, let me see, number 15? The one next but one to the end from the dining car?" "Yes." "Where was the conductor when you went to your compartment?" "Sitting at the end at a little table. As a matter of fact, McQueen called him just as I went to my own compartment." "Why did he call him?" "To make up his bed, I suppose. The compartment hadn't been made up for the night. Now, Colonel Arbuthnot, I want you to think carefully. During the time you were talking to Mr. McQueen, did anyone pass along the corridor outside the door?" "A good many people, I should think. I wasn't paying attention." "Ah, but I am referring to, let us say, the last hour and a half of your conversation. You got out Abenkovsky, didn't you? Yes, but only for a minute. There was a blizzard on. The cold was something frightful. One made quite thankful to get back to the fug. Though, as a rule, I think the way these trains are overheated is somewhat scandalous. Ambach sighed. It's very difficult to please everybody, he said. The English, they open everything. The Northerners, they come along and shut everything. It is very difficult. Neither Poirot nor Colonel Arbuthnot paid any attention to him. Now, monsieur, cast your mind back, said Poirot encouragingly. It was cold outside. You have returned to the train. You sit down again. You smoke perhaps a cigarette, perhaps a pipe. He paused for the fraction of a second. A pipe for me. McQueen smokes cigarettes. The train starts again. You smoke your pipe. You discuss the state of Europe, of the world. It is late now. Most people have retired for the night. Does anyone pass the door? Think. Arbuthnot frowned in the effort of remembrance. Difficult to say, he said. You see, I wasn't paying attention. But you have the soldier's observation for detail. You notice without noticing, so to speak. The colonel thought again, but shook his head. I couldn't say. I don't remember anyone passing except the conductor. Wait a minute. And then there was a woman. I think. You saw her? Was she old? Young? Didn't see her. Wasn't looking that way. Just a rustle. A sort of smell of scent. Scent? A good scent? Well, rather fruity, if you know what I mean. You smell it 100 yards away, but mind you, the colonel went on hastily. This may have been earlier in the evening. You see, as you said just now, it was one of those things you notice without noticing, so to speak. Sometime that evening I said to myself, woman's scent. Got it all on pretty thick. But when it was, I can't be sure, except that why, yes, it must have been after Vinkovsky. Why? Because I remember sniffing, just when I was talking about the utter washout Stalin's 5-year plan was turning out. I know the idea, woman, brought the idea of the position of women in Russia into my head, into my mind, and I know we hadn't got on to Russia until pretty near the end of our talk. You can't pin it down more definitely than that? No. It must have been roughly within the last half hour. It was after the train had stopped. The other nodded. Yes, I'm almost sure it was. Well, we would pass for that. Have you ever been in America, Colonel Arbuthnot? Never. Don't want to go. Did you ever know a Colonel Armstrong? Armstrong. I've known 2 or 3 Armstrongs. There was a Tommy Armstrong in the 60th. You don't mean him. And Selby Armstrong, he was killed on the Somme. I mean the Colonel Armstrong who married an American wife, whose child was kidnapped and killed. Ah, yes, I remember reading about that. Shocking affair. I don't think I actually ever came across the fellow. Though of course I knew him. Toby Armstrong, nice fellow. Everybody liked him. He had a distinguished career, got the V.C. The man who was killed last night was the man responsible for the murder of Colonel Armstrong's child. Arbuthnot's face grew rather grim. Then, in my opinion, the swine deserved what he got, though I would have preferred to see him probably hanged or electrocuted, I suppose, over there. In fact, Colonel Arbuthnot, you prefer law and order to private vengeance? We can't go about having blood feuds and stabbing each other like Corsicans or the Mafia, said the colonel. Say what you like. Tribute by jury is a sound system. Poirot looked at him thoughtfully for a minute or two. Yes, he said, I am sure that would be your view. Well, Colonel Arbuthnot, I do not think there is anything more I have to ask of you. There is nothing you yourself can recall last night that in any way struck you, or shall we say strikes you now, looking back, as suspicious? Arbuthnot considered for a moment or two. No, he said, nothing at all, unless he hesitated. But yes, continue, I pray of you. Well, it's nothing really, said Colonel slowly. But you said anything. Yes, go on. Oh, it's nothing, a mere detail. But as I got back to my compartment, I noticed at the door of the one beyond mine, the end one, Yes, number 16. Well, the door of it was not quite closed, and the fellow inside peered out in a sort of way. Then he pulled the door to quickly. Of course, I know there's nothing in that, but it struck me as a bit odd. It's quite usual to open a door and stick your head out if you want to see anything, but it was the furtive way he did it that caught my attention. Yes, said Poirot doubtfully. I told you there was nothing to it, said Arbuthnot apologetically, but you know what it is. Early hours of the morning, everything very still. The thing had a sinister look, like a detective story. All nonsense, really. He rose. Well, if you don't want me any more. Thank you, Colonel Arbuthnot, there's nothing else. The soldier hesitated for a moment. His first natural distaste for being questioned by foreigners had evaporated. About Miss Debenham, he said rather awkwardly. You can take it from me that she's all right. She's a Puga Sahib. Flushing a little, he withdrew. What? Asking Dr. Constantine with interest. Does a Puga Sahib mean? It means, said Poirot, that Miss Debenham's father and brothers were at the same kind of school as Colonel Arbuthnot was. Oh, said Dr. Constantine, disappointed. Then it has nothing to do with the crown at all. Exactly, said Poirot. He fell into a reverie, beating a little tattoo on the table. Then he looked up. Colonel Arbuthnot smokes a pipe, he said. In the compartment of Mr. Ratchet, I found a pipe cleaner. Mr. Ratchet smoked only cigars. You think he is the only man so far who admits to smoking a pipe, and he knew of Colonel Armstrong. Perhaps actually did know him, though he won't admit it. So you think it possible? Poirot shook his head violently. That is just it. It is impossible, quite impossible, that an honorable, slightly stupid, upright Englishman should stab an enemy 12 times with a knife. Do you not feel, my friends, how impossible it is? That is the psychology, said Imbock, and one must respect the psychology. This crime has a signature, and it is certainly not the signature of Colonel Arbuthnot. But now, to our next interview. This time, Imbock did not mention the Italian, but he thought of him.